Begin chapter 3. Continuation of chapter 2. What did we learn yesterday? Interesting concept. There's to forgive, and then there's to forget. Forget means you forget what happened, the negative thing that a person did. It's a metaphor. You did something against the king, and you've asked for forgiveness. You've recognized you've done wrong, but then after being forgiven, there is to be accepted as you were before you did anything wrong to the king. And you give a gift, right? Same thing as in human relations. To your spouse, you did something and you ask for forgiveness. You leave the negative ways of whatever it was. You ask for forgiveness, and then in order that you should be perceived like you were before you did anything wrong, you bring a gift. Same thing as to God. We do wrong towards God, we have to do tshuva, we have to do penitence. We have to leave the path, the negative path, the sinful path that we were on, and accept upon ourselves the path that Hashem wants us to lead. But then we bring it, and that's tshuva. Tshuva is fixing the past. But now that you should be perceived in the present as you were before you did anything wrong, that takes something more. That's an offering. Sometimes the Holy Temple, that offering was an animal on the altar. Today, we don't have that anymore. But we can still give the blood and the fat of the individual, which that animal was to represent. The individual, the animal from within. So now we give it, how? Through fasting. Through fasting. Fasting allows us to give a gift to God, and very important, we're going to have a few classes till we're going to get through this. Few days till we're going to get through this and get a clarity. So I want to make sure that no one goes out and starts fasting too much based on what we're going to learn, or what we have learned and will further learn. And as the Arizal pointed out, that if you want to be, again, this is not about tshuva, this is not about atonement and being forgiven, and that it will never be mentioned again, the misdeed that you did before God. But to be, again, to be looked at the same way, to forgive is one thing, to forget as if it ever happened, this is what we're talking about over here. So the Arizal said, for example, that if a person got angry, so you got to do tshuva, of course, but there's tshuva that you won't get angry again. But if you want to now be accepted before Hashem as you were before, so the Arizal says you need to fast, and get this, folks, 151 times a fast. Doesn't mean 151 days in a row. So we will learn more about this, right? Or if you neglected a positive commandment, like you forgot to pray, 61 fasts. Less than half, by the way. Anger is really not a good one. That's what we learned yesterday. So we continue with this thought. Again, I want to warn everybody, the Alter Rebbe is just building up the case, and we will see where this is going, that in the end, the fasting is not really the path that we, the specific path that we take, as we will see, but not today. So the Alter Rebbe now says that the later Musar sages, after the Arizal lived in in the 16th century. So those that came after him, they were divided in their opinion with regard to if you did the same sin several times. Let's say you got angry several times. So what do? Do you have to fast 151 times for that sin and that's it? Or do you have to, if it was 10 times, 151 times 10? Ooh. Definitely will help your, if you have any issues, weight issues. But not the path to take. No. So they're divided. Some say that you have to fast if it was 10 times. Well, the example he gives over here is a wasteful emission of semen. That you have to fast 84 times. So if it was 10 times, so it would be 10 times 84, or 20 times, it would be 20 times 84. Why is that? Because it's comparable. Why are they of that opinion? Because it's comparable to what's called a korban chatos, a sin offering. And a sin offering you bring for each time you do the sin that is, if you did one today and one yesterday and one day before, each one is separate. So you would bring for each sin a sin offering. Others compare it, though, to an oila offering, right, which is the neglect of a positive commandment. And there, if you neglected to say the Shema, for example, at the the men or put on tefillin, for several times, then you bring only one oila offering, a scent offering, for many times violating the same mitzvah. So we have a difference of opinion, right? So the accepted decision is that you do it 3 times. So, for example, for wasteful emission, that it's 84. So no matter how many times that happened, would be 3 times 84, 252 fasts. That's what it would be. Why is this idea of 3? Because 3 brings permanence to something. In other words, when you did something 3 times, for bad or for good, right, it creates a certain, it creates a certain permanence in what we have done. One time is like, affects the outside, second time the inside, the third time through and through, right? And as a result, so to take away that which penetrated through and through, you fast 3 times the amount of fast. So if it's anger, you got angry 100 times in the last 100 days. Or in the last whatever. So it would be 3 times 151, for example, and so on. Again, I just want to warn everybody. Oops. Oh boy. Lost. I just want to warn everybody that this is only the beginning of the thought. We're going to see where we're going with this. Don't start all these fasts now, because we're going to see that this is only speaking about people who are extremely strong, robust, that they can deal with this. And the Elder will say that's not our generation. It was not his generation, he even said. But we're going there. My phone died. Didn't realize it. Okay, questions? Yes. We're going to get back to Clubhouse the moment that I can get back. 2 question marks before you ask a question. When Mashiach comes, will there be no sins? So there will be no offerings on the altar. Very good question. So there's offerings that have nothing to do with sin, and then there's offerings that have to do with sin. So those that, don't have to do with sin will be offered. Yes, Davida, we're going there, as I said. As I said, this is the middle of a thought, so I don't want to give everything away that's going to be in the forthcoming classes. But yes, this is not it. Geetha, that's a very personal question. That is not at the appropriate place. This is not the appropriate place for that. So, not a time for that. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, please tell on Clubhouse. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that my phone was so low on battery, and it died on me. No, it's okay, Geetha, not a problem. Just not the place. All right, folks. Asher, is wasteful emission and abortion comparable sins? They're comparable, Asher, in the sense that they are both wasteful emission of semen is a potential of life that has been wasted, and has just been sought for lustful pleasure. And abortion is also a potential of life or that has not been realized. So in that way, there's a comparison between them. Yes. Leib Chaim has a question on Instagram. How much does it cost? Okay, we're gonna get there. We're not there yet, Leib Chaim. So we'll get there. Okay. Sorry, folks, that I am asking you for patience. Trying to bring other things up that we're not yet there. So Clubhouse, I'm going back on. My apologies for those on Clubhouse. I didn't realize that my phone was so low and it died. So it's back to life. This is what you call Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead. Right? Okay. All right, folks. Just a brief thought. Since today's class is sort of like, which I say, in the middle ground of a thought. We look at fasting as a negative thing. It's sort of like a necessary evil, Yom Kippur. You got to fast. And other times, this Sunday is going to be a fast day, Shiva Sabbat Tammuz, the 17th day of Tammuz. Falls on Shabbos, so it's pushed off to Sunday. So we look at it as a negative thing. And especially it came for a negative reason, right? Meaning the 17th day of Tammuz, because the breaching of the wall of Jerusalem and the beginning of destruction, or a point of, that led to the destruction of the two holy temples. But in a deeper way, as we learned today, this morning, everybody's welcome to join my yeshiva, myeshiva.ca. You can get information there and join us daily, 7:05 to 7:30, then 8:30 or 8:30, 8:40 till around 9:15, and then we come to Tanya, of course, and then after Tanya is Rambam. So we have full morning of learning, and we discussed it this morning. So I invite you on Zoom, 770 6085. And thank you, Davida, for putting it up. And you have to close the you close the whatchamacallit, and it lets you through. Pretty good. So we discussed it this morning. And briefly, is that you can, with your physical eye, you see one thing. With your mind's eye, you see something else. Your physical eye, you can see destruction. You can see, negative things. In your mind's eye, if you know that God is your heavenly Father, and just like a king, a powerful, mighty king, will bathe and wash his only son that has got a dirty diaper and got to clean the filth, he'll do it lovingly. And sometimes it might be hot water, it might be a little painful, it might be a little rash there, it needs to be healed, and the child is crying, but the king, Father the King, is doing it with great love, although it experience pain. So the same thing as we can experience pain. Fasting, for example, but really it's a loving Father that is putting us through this. When we understand that, the trials and tribulations and the difficulties we have in our life, we know they're being put through by our loving Father, who just is doing it for our benefit. We should all know that, feel it, and live it. All right. Thank you. All right. Rambam is coming up next. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad, Zichron, Kedesh, in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining.